for these two finalists as Volcarona and Basculegion take to the stage. And on the opposing side, it's going to be a Volcarona and a Basculegion?
Yeah, both trainers opted for the same lead, but there's a lot of danger here because none of these Basculegions are intimidated. So if you just manage to get Incineroar in, you can prevent big damage. Otherwise, a Wave Crash could cause fundamental damage into the opposing Volcarona.
Yes, these Volcaronas have not gone for Equivalence yet. They do not have the speed advantage over Basculegion.
But we also saw that Incineroar is not a safe switch either, because even at -1, an adaptability Wave Crash just can take out the Incineroar as well, so it's not a safe switch in either. Maybe a Terra Fire helps you to take that, maybe switching in Rillaboom to activate that Grassy Seed as well.
Yes, adaptability, pushing that same type attack bonus even further to make Basculegion even more formidable. But straight out of the blocks in Game 1 here in the Grand Finals, we're going to see Terrestrialization take to the stage, and lo and behold, it's going to be on that Volcarona. Going into that Fairy type, now it has the utility to unlock Terra Blast into a Fairy type move.
Neither of these Pokemon players have switched out here. We see a defensive play from Theotime with the Protect. Let's see what Simone has opted to go for. There's a Wave Crash going straight into that Protect, so let's see what instead we see from Theotime's.
Yep, great Protect coming through on that Volcarona, but the Wave Crash on Theotime's side is going to be able to find its mark. Huge damage into the Volcarona, not enough to be able to get the KO. That Terrestrialization was key and critically allows Simone to get that Quiver Dance up, but at what cost? Look at that damage.
That was a lot of damage. You might outspeed the opposing Basculegion now, and maybe after that recoil damage, a Terra Blast might be enough to take it out, but you just have sacrificed, or you just have traded in your Terra Fairy against like 95, 99% of your damage, so it's really difficult to come back having invested your Terra so early in the game.
But critically, you do have a lot of speed on your side. If you are that Volcarona, you could go for the Terra Blast into the Basculegion, try and remove it from play, or maybe now with your own Basculegion, you can go for that Wave Crash again.
Yeah, and also this has given you now information on how much Volcarona is taking from a Wave Crash after a Terra. So now Theotime knows if I go for a Terra and also bring in my Rillaboom, I'm in a somewhat decent position because my Volcarona will take the Wave Crash better, might also have the option to switch out. But instead, it is the Volcarona switching out.
Yeah, it was so close. Doesn't even want to run the risk that maybe the Volcarona with that Terra Fairy would be KO'd. Instead, let's bring in the Rillaboom, a Grass-type Pokemon that is well-versed to taking Water-type attacks, even from an adaptability Basculegion. Critically, however, this is going to be able to activate the Grassy Seed on the opposing Volcarona, so it's going to get a little bit of a defense boost, but I don't think that matters. The HP is so low. Wave Crash, however, goes into the opposing Basculegion, but it is able to hang on despite the critical hit.
This is a really interesting speed interaction because so far we thought that after Quiver Dance, Volcarona would be faster, but on Simone's team, Choice Scarf Basculegion was still faster than the Volcarona. Double up into the Basculegion, first Pokemon of the finals being down.
I like that targeting. The critical hit took it so low, but I think obviously without it, Simone knew it wasn't going to be able to get the knockout. You had to double into it to remove it from play. And yes, very nice observation that the Basculegion was still going to be faster, but now you don't even have to worry about that. It is gone.
Yeah, it's gone off the field. Rillaboom in a great position here, has two great targets. Both Basculegion and the Volcarona this low in HP would go down to Grassy Glide with the priority move. But if you attack into the Volcarona, Basculegion just gets a Wave Crash off into the opposing Volcarona. So maybe that's what I want to see. The Terra Fairy, this time though, boosted with the Grassy Seed before it takes the Wave Crash.
Anything you can do, I can do too, says Volcarona, as it adopts that Fairy Terrestrialization. So it is now, like you say, going to be able to have a little bit more defensive capability, particularly with that Grassy Seed activation into the potential Wave Crash. The Grassy Glide finds its mark on the opposing Volcarona, but critically for its trouble, the Flame Body activates that. Rillaboom is now burned. That means its offensive pressure is going to be weakened for the rest of this match.
Specifically for the following turn, where you would want another Grassy Glide to pick up the KO onto the Basculegion. This no longer is an option. We see a Wave Crash going into with a critical hit, takes out the Volcarona and one hit.
What a beautiful turn here for Simone Sanvito, getting the burn on the opposing Rillaboom, getting the KO down on that Volcarona with the critical hit. This Basculegion knows it is in the Grand Finals.
Such an unfortunate turn for Theotime, because this could have looked completely different. If you withstand that move, then Rillaboom is in a great position if it isn't burned. You get a Quiver Dance, or maybe even go out for the offensive and take a knockout there as well. There were so many options, but amazing turn. Very fortunate for Simone. Here in the finals, puts him in the driving seat, and Theotime down to their last two Pokemon with the Rillaboom and the Incineroar.
Now that Incineroar coming in on Theotime's side, knowing that it's in there, the Intimidate would have been so great maybe down into that Basculegion in the previous turn, but no, it's here now and it has some options. It can go for the Fake Out into the opposing Incineroar, but my question, Barish, is Basque Legion in prime position to just go for another wave crash, no?
Another wave crash, take out another knockout. You can also swap out and get it back in, refresh from that Intimidate. But Incineroar is not in a great position here. We see the fake out as well. Intimidate now sticks onto both Rillaboom and the Incineroar. There's the wave crash. Incineroar goes down.
Despite the Intimidate, Basque Legion is here to try and get the champion title. It gets another KO. I love how Simone leaves the Rillaboom alone, going, you have been burned. You've also been intimidated, so you're not going to go for a grassy guide. You have to go for the wood hammer in order to get the KO, and that enables the speedier Basque Legion to have got that wavecraft off.
Yeah, eventually Basque Legion faints and is out of battle here, but it has done so much work in this game. Caused like 2 big knockouts there with the critical hit, with the Incineroar being down to 1 shot as well. And now Rillaboom hits the field. Incineroar Rillaboom against the burn Rillaboom. That's a great position to be in. You just fake out knockoff and yeah, Theotime sees that. There's no way to come back into this game. Simone takes game 1.
I mean, we've been kind of asking the question all weekend long, how do you stop Volcarona? And it turns out that these Titans who have been using Volcarona to great success had the answer on their own teams the whole time. In both situations, the Basque Legion was a critical Pokemon to weaken the opposing Volcarona, but in the trade-off, in the comparison, Simone's with that critical hit was able to be victorious.
Yeah, it's really not what I expected from this mirror match here, that it would be so all-out offensive from the very first turn, both leading with the Volcarona, with the Basque Legion, trading off damage there. Not going for the Rillaboom switch in, which felt very safe. Also to give yourself a booster, maybe with the Terra Fairy. But we've seen, even if you go for that play, you might be crit and out of competition.
I mean, going into game 2 now, you've got to be thinking of your Simone, that your confidence is sky high. I love the way both these trainers led with the same leads. You can see they're well-versed with their teams. They saw that Volcarona and Basque Legion were optimal. But I have to ask Barish, going into this, do you go with the same leads? Or is there something that Team can do to throw Simone off his game?
Yeah, it's difficult. Maybe either of these players now opts for a more defensive playstyle, and we might see something like a Rillaboom and a Osaluna lead, maybe take the defensive route, fake out Yawn, and then try to set up eventually. You have your Volcarona in the back, switching in the right moment, and Basque Legion just waiting to take those big knockouts. But I once again want to point out how this was the first time that a Scarf Basque Legion on stream outsped a Quiver Dance +1 speed Volcarona.
That's true. It was interesting information to take from game 1, and now that game 2 is underway, these trainers are going to have to utilize this. Simone Sanvito 1 game away from becoming champion. He sticks with the same leads, but it looks like Team is shaking things up. Volcarona is still here, but Incineroar's here to play. Yeah,
but keep in mind that Incineroar is not safe on the field, because a wave crash, even at -1, was able, with fake out chip in the last game, but we also saw on stream that even without the fake out damage, is enough to take out that knockout. And I mean, if you don't terror the opposing Volcarona either, it also might go down this early on. But I think Intimidate, bring in your Rillaboom, Grassy Seed activation, that could get Theotime what he needs.
Maybe Basque Legion is going to pick up game 2 as it ended game 1 and just go for those wave crashes and get a lot of damage out on the board. But no surprises to see Terrestrialization come forward from these trainers. The Volcarona is going to be going into that Terra Fairy once again. This does give it a little bit more defensive capability against those wave crashes. But as we've seen, it's barely able to hang on if that wave crash is able to connect. Basque Legion takes to the seas, turns down against the Incineroar, but it is not enough to get a knockout.
Yeah, it seems to be Theotime saw that this particular Basque Legion is faster than Volcarona, which might indicate that it's a jolly variant, and then Incineroar might have a better chance to survive here. We see that he traded that damage into the Incineroar for making sure that he has a full HP Terra Fairy Volcarona boosted with 1 Quiver Dance and potentially gets a knockoff or a padding shot into the Volcarona here.
Well, there's the parting shot, connects into the Volcarona on Simone's side. Both Volcaronas went for the Quiver Dance. I believe Teams went first. That could be an indication of how the speeds are going to interact in the following turn.
Yeah, we might also be fooled, and maybe this Volcarona is just really slow from Simone.
Maybe. Right? Yeah, there's a lot of things.
That would also allow the Volcarona to be outsped by a Choice Scarf Basque Legion. So potentially, despite looking at a mirror, these Pokemon might be trained completely different, and maybe Theotime's Volcarona is actually faster than the Basque Legion after this boost.
Well, we know that Simone's Basque Legion is locked into that wave crash, and now the Basque Legion on Team's side has joined the fray. Do you feel like there's any reason to change it up, go for the wave crash again?
Yeah, you probably just go for the wave crash again. I mean, can't really count on the crit once again, We have yet to see if the Volcarona from Simone is faster than the opposing, but he plays it safe here and goes for the protect play.
Yeah, maybe feels the Wave Crash was going to be the target into that slot, goes for the protect, but the Basque Legion on Simone's side is going to be able to get that Wave Crash off first, does just over 50% to that opposing Volcarona, putting in a precarious situation for the next turn potentially, as the Volcarona has to try and hit its marks. Is able to connect the Heat Wave on the Basque Legion, not enough to be able to get the KO, but does get the burn. A little bit of redemption for that Rillaboom in the previous game.
Yeah, very crucial burn here, because I was going to say, if you don't take the knockout and allow that Basque Legion to attack once again in the next turn, that might be really important here. Heat Wave connecting, making you mark, making you burn mark more so.
Definitely, but I think critically, you now don't guarantee, I believe, necessarily that that Wave Crash will get the Volcarona this turn.
Yeah, it was around 60%, so half that is 30, 60, and 30. Might not quite add up to 100 in this case here. So this, like, except for a potential crit, this might not be enough and gives the Volcarona of Theotime just another turn.
It certainly puts a question mark on those calculations, and Simone now has to think about the Volcarona. You've gone for the protects. Is it now time to unleash that Terra Fairy to be able to protect it from the Wave Crashes from the opposing Basque Legion?
Yeah, and then, like, Kax we haven't talked about is like the Heat Waves into opposing Terra Fairy Volcaronas. Especially if both of them are boosted, it's going to be very close to see if that Heat Wave is enough, and also which Volcarona is faster.
Well, here we go again. Volcarona shedding its bug and fire type and instead becoming a beautiful fairy up there in our grand final stage. Just having that defensive capabilities from the Wave Crash, but its partner Basque Legion is going to be first. As you can see, the burn, meaning it's not enough to be able to get the KO. So Volcarona on Timote's side is going to be able to go for this Terra Blast. It's finding its mark across the battlefield into that opposing Volcarona, knowing that if the Wave Crash is following up from this Basque Legion, it's going to be able to get the KO. Volcarona is able to get the Heat Wave off, but Basque Legion still in play.
Really interesting speed interactions, even between the same four Pokemon on the field here. Volcaronas and Basque Legion just outspeeding each other. Maybe with the combination of Wave Crash and the Terra Blast is enough to take out the Volcarona. Great play from Theotime here, but another Flame Buddy burn.
I feel like I've seen this story before. Both Volcaronas go down, both these trainers trading them in a way to be able to remove the threat from the field, but both the Basque Legions are burned for their efforts. Critically, however, I think Simone's one has less HP remaining. Is it going to be KO'd? Yes, it is. It's gone.
Yeah, Simone down 2 Pokemon here. From what we've seen, I think the last 2 Pokemon are both Incineroar and Rillaboom. And Theotime still has an Incineroar themselves that they can switch in at any point to put Intimidate onto those 2 physical attackers. So it really comes down to what is the last Pokemon on Theotime's side? We might guess if it's a full mirror, then they might also have Rillaboom.
Well, Rillaboom the Recluse is going to have to get out and socialize here on the field as the Incineroar comes through on Theotime's side. Now, I feel like the script has been flipped a little bit from Game 1 to Game 2, because in Game 1, Simone was able to apply all of the pressure with Intimidates and things like that, but now Theotime in a prime position to threaten both these physical attackers and neutralize them towards this endgame state.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the burn, one potential play would have been fake out the Rillaboom, prevent a Grassy Glide, and then even at -1, your Wave Crash would have taken out the Incineroar, but that's no longer an option, and it's going to be... Theotime is in a really difficult position thanks to that burn to overcome the, like, just with power of Incineroar and Rillaboom on the field here. Potentially, Incineroar might just switch out to get his second Intimidate into the game. Maybe that helps it in the combination with Rillaboom in the back to actually overcome this duo, but it's really difficult from this position on.
And we don't have any fire-type moves on these Incineroars either, so there isn't the potential of trying to get some good damage onto the opposing Rillaboom. You're really going to be relying on a move like Knockoff to be able to get that damage in play. I like the way Basque Legion is switching out. The potential Grassy Glide would have been very dangerous for it to contend with, so if you bring in another Rillaboom, then you have a way of avoiding that. And critically, you don't even have to go for Grassy Glide. A Fake Out can get the KO onto the opposing Incineroar.
Yeah, Theotime is shaking his head, not happy with those plays, how it turns out. Incineroar coming with the knockoff here, Intimidated, still does decent damage, but knocking off the Assault Vest will not play a role against these 2 physical attackers.
Exactly, you didn't need that Assault Vest anyway, Rillaboom. You look great as it is in this Grand Finals, as the Basque Legion can rejoin the fray. Now, it is burned, but is it going to be able to still do enough significant damage, maybe followed up with a high horsepower into the Incineroar?
Yeah, it's going to be really close here. You have the Fake Out pressure as well, so maybe Fake Out Wave Crash, Fake Out Last Respects might, like, put enough damage on the field so that Rillaboom can then close it out. Keep in mind, both of Simone's Pokemon are intimidated here as well. That Intimidate sticks for the rest of the game and might just be enough damage here. Fake Out, prevent the Grassy Glide. Let's see what this Basque Legion is locking into.
It goes for the wave crash, and this might indeed be its last hurrah into the Incineroar. Huge amount of damage despite that burn. Does take a little bit of recoil, but Incineroar is still here in the game. It can go for that knockoff into the Ghost type and get the KO. Now there's just the Rillaboom on Theotime's side to contend with.
Yeah, both these Rillabooms, I mean, this game is far from over. Like, Theotime still has a full HP Rillaboom on the field. It's not intimidated. You have a free KO into that Incineroar, but then the question is, Rillaboom against Rillaboom, who's going to come out as the winner?
They've both got the grassy terrain recovery until it expires. You know, there's no opportunity to start switching them out. And I think, has it expired already? No, it's still in play.
Still 3 more turns.
Still there. And that's something that you have to bear with as well, because if you're doing these damage calculations, you have to make sure that you're keeping your Pokemon in the game.
Also keep in mind, these Incinerators are not running Flare Blitz, so you don't really threaten too much pressure into the Rillaboom. So maybe you take out the opposing Rillaboom first and then go for the Incineroar, because now that the Assault Vest is knocked off, knockoff won't do too much damage, but surprisingly, this Incineroar is incredibly fast.
Simone's Incineroar setting up for the end game. It cannot intimidate anymore, but it can still lower the attack with that parting shot. And Woodhammer, we've seen time and time again this weekend in terrain, still dealing significant damage into opposing Rillaboom. High horsepower, however, is going to take care of that Incineroar. And here in our Grand Finals Game 2, we are going to see two titans of the metagame, Rillaboom versus Rillaboom.
I really love the adaptation of this really fast, speedy Incineroar, outspeeding opposing Rillabooms on teams as well. We've seen Michael Kalsch in the past running a max speed Incineroar, but now it is Rillaboom against Rillaboom. First Woodhammer coming out here. We'll see how much the unintimidated Woodhammer will do, though.
Yeah, Woodhammer coming down into the opposing side. It did take that drop thanks to the parting shot, but you can see how minimal this damage is, and critically, they're getting that recovery. But also, one other thing to bear in mind is the more damage you deal to your opponent, the more recoil you are taking. But Simone's looks to be in the stronger position right now.
Not only that, but it also seems to be fast attacking first twice. Another Woodhammer coming into, not quite enough. We'll see if the recoil is enough, or if potentially this Woodhammer crits to get him back into the game.
Woodhammer does come down. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Simone Sanvito, if that Rillaboom is indeed able to outspeed, is going to be able to take the victory.
There's one more game dividing us between winning this regional here. Let's see if Simone's, I mean, even without the grassy terrain, this Woodhammer should be enough.
You know what's coming. Woodhammer goes down into Rillaboom. That's a knockout. And Simone Sanvito, with Rillaboom by his side, with the Alolan Ninetales in the team, is your 2026 Gdańsk Regional Champion.
Yet another regional title, 2 already in the books. He joins the exclusive club of multiple regional title champions here.